Hey everyone, it's Matt. We are back. I know it's been a while. I apologize, but life takes over. Things get a little crazy. But it's the holidays. Semester's done. I got some downtime, so I figured why not show you my dart frog Vivarium. You can see some of the stars here already. That's Tripod, named for the 3 dots on his head, or her head. I honestly have no idea which sex they are. And that's Rorschach there. This is Dendrobates tinctorius, I believe. And they've been a real joy. And overall, this is the largest vivarium build I've ever done. And it's been a great learning curve. Not everything's been a success, but it's been really fun to watch this mature. And mature it has. If you would have seen this right after I finished, it would have been unrecognizable from what it was today. And I mostly did this from cuttings and just random stuff we had lying around the house. A few purchases here and there, but this was a very cheap setup. It's got some PVC and I guess what you would put underneath inflorescent lights for drainage and also to keep up the humidity without saturating the soil. I guess for starters, the soil is something approaching the same mix that Atlanta Botanical Garden uses, so long-grade sphagnum moss, some pumice, charcoal. I throw in some gravel for extra drainage, and I layer on top a bunch of live oak leaves. And it's been growing pretty steadily. You can see plenty of root space underneath here. But yeah, just figured I'd introduce you to some of the plants. Obviously the dart frogs are the stars of it all, but how cool is it to make a habitat that they can enjoy and explore? So we'll read from right to left here today. This colorful little beast here is an aroid. It's Aglaeonema. It's a little cultivar called Wishes. It's got that nice color. They're more common than I realized. They're actually relatively common in airports and office rooms. They're just generally not this color. When I first got it, it was not covered up by this Begonia here, which we'll get to in a little bit. And it was getting sunburned really bad, but since then the shade has kind of done well for it. It was down to 1 leaf, and as you can see now it has 1, 2, 3, 4 really colorful leaves. It's pretty happy. More on the way. I'm pleased with it. It's gonna get big, but it's been growing kind of slow because, let's be honest, this lighting fixture here isn't the strongest. It's just an aquarium LED light. I like it though. It doesn't let things get out of hand too quickly. This bromeliad here is a Neoregelia. It's not terribly happy in this position, but it's growing still, just slowly but surely. I don't know which species it is. This right here is, garden variety Pothos. It was a cutting from my mom. She's had going since way before I was born. So this is, a clone of a really old plant, but I mean, look at the size of that leaf. That's big, And when the cutting that she gave me has never grown leaves that are more than, say, this big. So it got in here, got into some decent soil mixture, and gets plenty of fertilizer from the frogs, and boy, did it take off. Did not realize it was going to get that big, so I'm constantly battling this one to keep it in check. But it looks good. You just got to work on it, and that's okay, because I kind of like messing around with this. You can see there was another vine tendril coming out here, and I didn't want it to take over the front of the vivarium, so I clipped it. This begonia here, which has taken off way more than I ever expected it to. I don't have a lot of luck with begonias. If you've listened to the podcast in the past, you know I've mentioned that more than once. But this one seems to really like it. This is Begonia Harmony's Ray Glow. It's a cultivar, but wow, is it prolific. And I gotta admit, I mean, it's pretty nice. Depending on the amount of light it's getting, it gets like kind of light green leaves, or sometimes leaves with more red coloration in them. And what's really funny to me, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but it's a prolific rooter. I mean, I can get this thing, little cuttings of this to root, no problem. And as you can see here, anything that's kind of touched the surface, the top of the tank here, has actually started to root just from the end veins and the leaves. It's bizarre, but it's really prolific, and it's one of those I can give away to friends, constantly take cuttings of and keep going. So it's a winner in my book. It's just kind of crazy right now. This one was an interesting find, and I gotta say it's been very nice to have it. It's your Syngonium. I mean, it's a typical aroid Syngonium. You know, generally they have much larger leaves. This is a mini Syngonium podophyllum. And I was really suspicious at first, and I said, oh, well, we might as well put it in and see what happens. But as you can see, those are tiny, and it has not shown any indication of its leaves getting any bigger. I'm shocked, because I really thought this was going to do what that Pothos did and get in here and then like it and then take off. But it's behaving, and it really hasn't spread. As you can see, there's another patch of it over here. It's doing really well. It likes it. Like I said, regularly puts on new leaves, and that's about as big as they've gotten. I like that plant, and I highly recommend it for any like small vivarium builds you want to do, simply because it's really hard actually to find plants that behave themselves really well in an enclosed space like this. I mean, this is a 30-gallon long, and even that has some challenges to face in terms of, you know, most plants get really big, and those that don't get really big often don't like to be enclosed in a space that doesn't have a lot of airflow. So this has kind of been a big trial process for me, and it's working out. So I like that one. I don't know if you can see down here. That is what's left of an arrow or a heartleaf fern. You know, I've never had any luck with them. I try to grow them out in pots, you know, keep them nice and wet, but they end up shriveling and dying. This one did okay until the summer, and I think the heat kind of did it in. But yeah, it just slowly kind of rotted away, and then every once in a while, when I think it's gone, it throws up a tiny little leaf. So, whatever. If anyone knows how to keep these ferns happy, give us a comment in the comments section and let me know what we can do to make this plant happy. I like them a lot. They're really neat ferns, you know. It's different. It's got that heart-shaped leaf. I'd like to be able to grow them, but I just can't right now. This right here, oh, see you later, tripod. This right here is Maxillaria variabilis, and I had this in a smaller vivarium for a while, and then when I went away for the summer, I let a friend take care of that vivarium, and this one almost died, but I took a few pseudobulbs out and threw them in this little log here, and it took off initially, flowered almost immediately. They're beautiful little yellow Maxillaria flowers with like a burgundy lip, and supposedly they smell like pine sol if you can get up and close with them, but they've always been in a small glass container, so I've never been able to enjoy that personally. But the heat of the summer, I mean, we're in Illinois, it gets hot around here. I mean, high 90s, and that's pretty brutal. And the tank also gets pretty hot, so it suffered a little bit, died back. As you can see, there's some naked bulbs there, but since things have kind of cooled down a little bit, it's taken off again and grown some new leaves. So hopefully in a couple of weeks we should see some flowers on this again, and maybe I'll do another update. Back here is a mystery bulbophyllum that I got from a friend who was just slowly killing it. And it was not doing too good in my care either, but I threw it in here just as kind of a Hail Mary attempt to keep it alive, and it's grown again. So with any luck, I'll get some flowers off of it eventually and finally figure out what the heck it is. Any bulbophyllum's a good bulbophyllum in my mind, though. This little Gesneriad, sort of African violet cultivar, I have no idea what it is, and it is super prolific. I got 2 leaves. That's what I started with this one. 2 little leaf cuttings. Threw them in the dirt, kind of forgot about it, and then after about, I'd say 2-3 weeks, they rooted and threw up their own leaves and grew into this massive bundle in the middle there, which is kind of nice. You know, that was kind of an empty space, wasn't looking like too much, and then this thing erupted and did really well, and as you can see, it's flowering, and it's prolific. Ever since it started producing its first flowers, it has not stopped. Now, most of them are this ugly, horrific little multi-petaled variety of flowers, but every once in a while you get like more of a normal-looking flower, but I don't really care. I mean, I'm not really a cultivar fan in most cases, but this one does so well in here. It handles constant humidity, and it's prolific. As you can see, it's getting, you know, this seems to have flowered from this side over. This is the end of the first flowering period, but already these new rosettes that just came in are getting new flowers on them. That's really exciting. Little maidenhair fern. That was actually one I grew from spore. I had tried culturing ferns from spores. Not much luck, or I didn't think there was, so I kind of forgot about the little container I had them in. I came back A few months later, I opened it up, and oh, wow, there was some babies in there. So that was exciting, and that's one of them. It's probably going to get too big, just like this maidenhair over here, but honestly, it takes up space. It looks really good. It provides these little guys with plenty of shade and things to hide in, which they like. It makes them a little bit braver in the long run, so they spend a lot more time out because they know they have places to hide. And, you know, I just kind of trim it back every once in a while. It does okay. It definitely does not like it when it touches the sides or gets too wet, but honestly, I mean, it kind of keeps it in check. As soon as it touches the top, that frond kind of withers a little bit and keeps it small. So I'm actually not too upset by that. Another, I think that's a, oh, what do they call those? Pleurothalid. That's a pleurothalid orchid that, again, suffered when the summer heat came, but it retained at least a few leaves and is now starting to grow back again, so maybe that'll just be like a nice seasonal flush I get. There's those pothos leaves, because that's where I started that cutting. It's made its way all the way across the tank and is trying to wrap around. Just, you know, like I said, the cutting never grew leaves that were more than a few inches, and now I get it into this humid environment, and lo and behold, it goes nuts. This fern right here is just stowaway. I had no intentions of putting a Phlebodium fern in here. It's an epiphytic fern. You can see the rhizome there. I think it came in on that Bulbophyllum. And it's huge, way too big for this, but I gotta be honest, I don't really care enough about it, so if it looks like crap, that's fine. What it does give me, though, is some much needed shade for this little corner, and I kind of like it for that. So you can see that frond came up and hit the top and just provides some nice natural shaded environment. I dig it. So it's staying. I just kind of clip it if it gets unruly or if it starts to mold from rotting away. Crypt Anthis, nestled in a sea of Selaginella. This is Selaginella apoda, one that's native to the United States. It was growing in my friend's lawn, and I took a few cuttings back and just wanted to see if they'd root, and they rooted all right. Doing really well. There's some fern gametophytes, probably came in off of one of the plants. But I really like the Selaginella. It kind of has this mat-like formation, and if you see it growing in the wild, it does this as well. It kind of gets into areas that are kind of consistently moist and proliferates, and it's kind of covering the bottom, but not in a way that's like overly aggressive. So that makes me happy, and it's native, so it's fun to grow one of our native Selaginellas that enjoys the temperate zone. Let's see. So this other Selaginella, this one's way weedier, a bit harder to deal with, but I adore this plant and I don't mind it in here. I just have to, again, stay on top of it. This is Selaginella willdenowii, and it's, as you can see, blue iridescent. Very beautiful. Likes low light conditions. It turns green and eventually just kind of burns if the light's too big, which actually keeps it in check. You can see some of it over here is not nearly as blue because that's exposed to full light, but apparently that blue coloration is a way of extracting more light out of shade. It works on some sort of quantum mechanic basis. I guess they just discovered it in begonias, at least how it works for the plant's benefit. That iridescence comes from stacked grana, I guess, in the photosynthetic machinery, and it physically slows the light down as it reaches the little leaflets there, and allows it to extract more light, or at least more energy, out of weak light conditions. Very cool plant, looks gorgeous, and if you're willing to keep up on it, it's a decent terrarium plant. Another Neoregelia here. This one not looking so good. It's still rooted, it's pretty sturdy, it's growing slowly. It just, I think when things got hot and humid over the summer, it kind of built up this filmy algae surface. But, you know, again, if it's behaving itself, I don't really mind that it's growing slowly. You can kind of see it here. It's nice, too, because the dart frogs jump in and out of it, and it's just neat to see them. These aren't the kind of dart frogs that breed on bromeliads. At least I don't think they do. I'm not planning on breeding them, but they do go in there from time to time, and the flies kind of crawl down in there and hide. It's really fun to watch them interact with the plants. Now back here, just behind it, I don't know if you can see it, we'll go in. This is really cool. This was a gift from a friend. He had some filmy ferns growing on some of his plants outside, and he gave me a little cutting of them. Filmy ferns are great. Hymenophyllaceae. They are, I think, only one cell thick, and neat little plants in humid areas. I enjoy the heck out of them, and these seem to finally be taking off. They were not doing good in any other condition, so I again, Hail Married it, threw them in here, and I'm glad I did. They're doing really well. So yeah, that's pretty much the space. I, again, really like dart frogs. They're so much fun. I never thought I'd get this much entertainment out of an amphibian. They're really they have characters to them. They're goofy, they're kind of clumsy, which is fun to watch. And, you know, honestly, there's like few things better than coming home after a long day in the office or the lab and just sitting back in the chair and watching these guys jump around, especially when it's time to eat. They're really comical. Oh, poor little Peperomia didn't get any love. Sorry about that. This was another cutting I found. It's just one of those little tiny semi-succulent Peperomias. It rooted in there. It's not doing so good where I put it, but it's since kind of traveled a bit. You can see a little sprig of it down here. And the plant seems to kind of be doing okay where it decides to grow. It's one of those where it's not going to really listen to you where you want it to do. It seems to just want to do its own thing, and I'm okay with that. There's a little vining fern in the back there that we met during my 100th episode for the podcast. And of course, plenty of moss. Moss just kind of volunteers in here, and even some little liverworts. There's some liverworts mixed in there. And it's just a lot of fun. I highly recommend it for anyone that's interested in kind of kicking things up. If you're curious about that pot in there, those are some Heliconius seeds that I was gifted. Apparently they take forever to germinate, but they like warm, humid conditions, so I just use that as a little spot for them. It's great because that little thing cultures a lot of springtails, which the frogs can snack on all day. It's a lot of fun. So, hope you enjoyed this. Stay patient. You know, it's winter here in the Midwest. We've got some really cool video projects in the works, but until we get better weather and the plants come back, break in dormancy, you know, we're not doing our regular video series. I don't have a lot of money for travel, but again, things are in the works, so stay tuned. Best way to do that is to hit subscribe. Also, if you're a vivarium plant grower or just a plant grower in general, comment down below and let me know what you're growing, what you recommend for vivariums, what you've had luck with, what you don't have luck with. Let us know what you're growing, and yeah, I'm always interested in trading. I've got a lot of other plants, so if you've got something cool, I've probably got something cool. Always down for a trade. Alright everyone, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Happy New Year. Adios.